Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to Down the Rabbit Hole. This is episode 25, and we're going to be talking about a dollar princess. Can you guess the name? By the title, if you guessed Jennie Jerome, you are correct. So if you're just curious or want to know why does this woman's name sound so familiar, before I tell you that, hit that like button, ring that bell for notifications, and subscribe. Help a girl out. Now, with that being said, I think it's time we dive into the episode. What do y'all think? Okay, I love history. I am a huge history buff, a history nut too. So anyway, down the rabbit hole is different from my dark academia podcast because it goes into a lot more different topics that don't necessarily correlate with dark academia. But I love it, so we're going down the rabbit hole. We talked about urban legends, we've talked about haunted towns and everything, but now we get to talk about some significant figures in history. That might help the lighting a little bit better. I am on my bed because I'm just too lazy to clean my desk off. Y'all know what I mean. I really need to though, because move out's in a few days. It is coming up in a few weeks. But anyway, so Jennie Jerome, better known as Jennie Spencer Churchill. So why does that name sound so familiar? Well, do you recall a famous British Prime Minister? Da da da. That's right, Winston Churchill. She is the mom of Winston Churchill. So Winston Churchill is actually part American. So, a little history fact for you guys. Um, so this is what we know about Jennie. She's known as Lady Randolph Spencer Churchill. She was an American-born British socialite, and she was the wife of Lord Randolph Churchill and the mom of British Prime Minister Winston Churchill. So, Jennie Jerome, she was born in a Cobble Hill section in Brooklyn in 1854 and the second of four daughters, one who died in childhood, of a financier, sportsman, and speculator, Jennie Jerome, and later Clarissa, daughter of Ambrose Hall, a landowner. See, it's important though. So her mom tried to get her into the American socializing, but they were so particular. So it's like, screw it, we're going over to Europe. We're going to get these girls married well off. Since everybody wants to be so selective, and we're going to show these Americans, these girls are definitely beautiful by European standards and acceptable. I also think it's because Jeannie's dad didn't come from really any money. So, he's new money. Jeannie's mom came from old money, so let's go ahead and get that out of the way. But anyway, um, her mom, Clarissa, was the daughter of Ambrose Hall, who was a landowner, so let's remember that now. And Jerome's dad was a Huguenot extraction, and the forebears having immigrated to America from the Isle of the Right in 1710. Now, Hall's family insists that Jennie had Iroquois ancestry through her maternal grandma. However, no research has been proven to show this now. Now, she was raised in Brooklyn, Paris, and New York City. She has two surviving sisters, Clarita and Leonie. So, another sister, Camille, died when Jennie was 9. Now, there is some disagreement regarding the time and place of her birth. There was a plaque of 426 Henry Street gives her the year 1850, but not 1854. However, January 9th, 1854, the Jeromes lived at the number 8 Amity Street, since it was renumbered in 97, it's believed that the Jeromes were temporarily staying at the Henry Street address, which was owned by Leonard's brother, Addison, and that Jennie was born during a snowstorm. So, and she was a noted beauty. Lord D'Abernon said that she was more of a partner than a woman in her look. So, what was her personal life like? Well, she was a talented amateur painter. Um, she was tutored as a girl by Stephen Heller, a friend of Chopin. Heller also believed that this young pupil was good enough to attain a concert standard and the necessarily hard work of which, according to author Mary S. Lovell, he was not confident she was capable of. Now, in 1909, when the American impresario Charles Prohan became a sole manager of the Globe Theatre, the first production was his Borrowed Flumes, which was written by Jennie. And although Miss Patrick Campbell produced and looked the lead role for the play, it was a commercial failure, and it was the point that the Campbells began an affair when Jennie's then husband, George Cornwallis West. So, Jennie was served as the chair of the hospital committee for the American Women's War Relief Fund starting in 1914. This organization did help fund and staff two hospitals during World War I. So, we all want to know her first marriage. Which marriage did she have Winston Churchill? What made her this name? Because we all know the British have this rule when it comes to divorcees and all of that. Well, Jennie and Jerome was married for the first time April 15th, 1874. Now, she was 20 at 20 when she got married at the British Embassy in Paris to Lord Randolph Churchill, the third son of John Winston Spencer Churchill, who was the seventh Duke of Marlborough, and Lady Frances Anne Vane. Now, the couple had met at a sailing regatta in the Isle of Wight on April 8, 1873. Having been introduced by the Prince of Wales, who was also rumored to be one of her lovers. Now, can we guess who the future King of Wales was? King Edward VII. And although they became engaged within 3 days of his initial meeting, the marriage was delayed for months while the parents argued over settlements. By this marriage, she was properly known as Lady Randolph Churchill and would have been addressed in the conversation as Lady Randolph. So, the Churchills would go on to have two sons, Winston and John. Winston, the future Prime Minister, was born less than 8 months after the marriage. Now, among many biographers, there has been very varied opinions about whether he was conceived before the marriage, or born 2 months prematurely after Lady Randolph had a fall. Now, when asked about the circumstances of his birth, Winston Churchill replied, "Although present at the occasion, I have no clear recollection of the event leading up to it." And rumors also circulate that his parentage of his Winston's younger brother, as Lady Randolph's sisters initially believed that the biological father of the second son, John, was Evelyn Boscawen, who was the seventh Viscount Falmouth, and although this was mostly discredited due to the boys' striking likeness to Randolph Churchill and to each other. Now, Lady Randolph Churchill is believed to have numerous lovers in this marriage, including the Prince of Wales, the Milan First of Serbia, Prince Karl Kaczynski, and Herbert von Bismarck. Those names sound familiar. They should, especially the Bismarck name. Keep that name in mind. History has a history with the Bismarcks for some reason. Okay, back to a serious note. As was custom in the day of social class, Lady Randolph played a limited role in her son's upbringings, relying mostly on nannies, especially Elizabeth Everest. Winston worshipped his mother, writing her numerous letters during his time at school and begging her to visit him, which she rarely did. He also wrote a book about my early life, saying that she shone for me like the evening star. I love her dearly, but at a distance. And after he became an adult, they became good friends and strong allies, to the point where Winston regarded her as one of a political mentors. In even terms, more like her brother and sister than mother and son. Now, Lady Randolph was respected and influential in the highest British social and political circles. She was said to be intelligent, witty, quick to laughter, and it was said that The Queen Alexandra especially enjoyed her company, although Lady Randolph had been involved in an affair with her husband, the king, which was well known to Alexandra. Through her family contacts and her extramarital romantic relationships, she was greatly helped her husband's early career as well as that of her son, Winston. Well, now let's talk about her later marriages, shall we? Um, when Lord Randolph died in 1895 at the age of 45, his death freed her and to move effortlessly despite her lack of money, and she mixed the high societies of London, attending a weekend party in July 1898 hosted by Daisy Warwick. Jennie was soon introduced to George Cornwallis West, a captain of the Scouts Guard who was just 16 years older than her son Winston. Yeah, yeah. Now he was instantly smitten, as they spent much time together, and George and Jennie were married July 28, 1900, at St. Paul's Church at Knightsbridge. Now, around this time, Jennie was well known for chartering the hospital ship Maine to care for those that was wounded in the Second Boer War. Now, she headed to the efforts to charter the ship, and with two American-born socialites residing in London. Jennie Goodblow and Fanny Ronalds. For this work, Churchill was awarded the decoration of the Red Cross, Royal Red Cross, in South Africa, and honors listed her published her on June 26, 1902, where Churchill received this decoration of a person from King Edward VII on October 2nd, 1902, during a visit to Balmoral Castle. And what do we know about Balmoral Castle? Yes, I know, we know. If you know your history, you know how important this is to Queen Victoria and the history of this house. But in 1908, she wrote in her memoir, The Romances of Lady Randolph Churchill. Now, George doted on Jennie, amorously nicknaming her Pussycat. Now, however, they drifted apart, and the Churchills were becoming dedicated literary family, and George, who was a financial failure in the city, slowly fell out of love with his wife, and who was old enough to be his mom. Keep that in mind. Old enough to be his mom. So, Jennie contemplated selling the family home in Hertfordshire to move into the Ritz Hotel and facility, where George was fragile health and he recuperated at the Swiss skiing resort in St. Moritz, and Jennie took on writing plays in the West End, and many in which she was a star with Mrs. Patrick Campbell. You remember that name? I hope you do. Now, Jennie separated from George in 1912, and they were divorced in April 1914, whereupon Cornwallis married Mrs. Campbell, and Jennie dropped the surname Cornwallis West, resumed by Daffy the Lady Randolph Churchill. Her third marriage, June 1st, 1918, was to Monica Philippine Poch, a member of the British Civil Service in Nigeria, who was younger than her son Winston by 3 years. And at the end of World War I, Poch resigned from his colonial service, and after Jennie's death, he returned to West Africa, where his business investment had proven successful. So, what about her death now? Well, in May 1921, while away in Africa, Jennie slipped um, while coming down a friend's staircase, wearing a new heel dress, breaking her ankle, and where gangrene was set in, and her left leg, and it was amputated to the knee. Following on June 10th, and now at the age of 67, she died at home on 8 Westbourne Street in London on June 29th, following a hemorrhage of an artery in her thigh, resulting in amputation from the amputation. She was buried at the Churchill family plot at St. Martin's Church in Bladon, Oxfordshire, next to her first husband. Wait, now, there are also many misdistributions. So the invention of the Manhattan cocktail sometimes erroneously is attributed to Jennie Churchill, who supposedly asked the bartender to make a special drink to celebrate this election of Samuel J. Tilden, the New York governorship in 1874. However, through this drink, it is believed that to be have been invented by the Manhattan Club on that occasion, and Jennie could not have been involved with that when she was in Europe at the time, about to give birth to her son Winston later that month. Alright, so what do y'all think of Jennie and Jerome? I'm very curious. Like I said, I love history, and you can join me in my next episode as we talk about the life of Georgina Cavendish, the origins, and in the episode of that, we're going to talk about the origins of the Chupacabra, and then after that, we're going to be talking about the Witch in the Woods urban legend. Very excited for that one. Gonna get some urban legends in, but I've got so many episodes, great episodes planned for y'all. I can't wait.